From Trump's inauguration to the horrific shooting at Bondi Beach, we revisit some of the top stories from 2025 and look ahead for what next year holds in store. This is The Deep Dive. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. I'm your host, Jacob Laznik. We have a special episode this week. We'll be revisiting the top stories in a very news-packed year. Joining us for the discussion is our very own editor-in-chief, Zvika Klein. Zvika, how you doing?
Hey, Jake, how are you?
I'm good.
The year's coming to an end.
Hell of a year.
A few things happen.
Yeah.
Here and there.
One or two.
Yeah,
That's how many. So I thought, we could go over some of the, the bigger stories because, as the war goes on, things just keep compiling. It's hard to keep track of when things happened, what happened in general.
It is amazing now that you guys, you created this list and you look at it, you're like, all this happened this year?
Yeah, no, it's wild.
Wow.
It's like, it feels like a fever dream. Like time is like a fake concept.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see.
But we had it easy here in the news.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't say easy.
I was kidding.
I'm glad.
I was kidding.
I didn't want to put you on blast, but I was like, I don't remember the last person. Iran wasn't easy. That was.
I'm gonna also ask you questions.
Good. Go. I hope so.
So, do you remember the night that we attacked Iran? Like not the fake, not the initial, few months before,
the operation,
the real,
Rising Lion,
Rising Lion.
Yeah, that was a real fever dream. That was like.
So
we'll get to that. We have a long list of a year to get to.
No, but it's like when you think of highlights and stuff. That's
for me as someone working in news. That was definitely the highlight, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
That was quite the time.
Yes.
All right, so let's see what 2025 held in store for us. Looking back at January, the two main things, obviously, we would say, first of all, Herzi Halevi announcing, former IDF chief of staff announcing his retirement over, taking responsibility for October 7th and security failures and such.
Mm-hmm. Which is a big deal because there were many people who said he should have done so right after October 7th, and
it's a very interesting sentiment that I think kind of applied to a lot of high-ranking security officials, where some of them resigned faster than others. Others felt they kind of have to. I couldn't leave with a failure. I have to kind of solve the issue.
No, but also listen, I don't have a definite opinion because at the end of the day, you want someone who knows what they're doing. To continue, right? So do you say, okay, no, we're kicking him out, whatever, while we're still in shock, right? Or do you just say, okay, let's take a moment, right? So he took a moment for
I mean, it's
a year and a half.
It's like a compounding issue. It's also as soon as we were under attack, obviously there was no time to be okay, wait, let's resign and find the replacement. You kind of have to pick up and go, and then there was
but that was the past 2 years.
Right. No, so that's when he announced he would resign. He obviously resigned in March, but it was that was one of the more significant officials saying, I messed up.
Right.
I took care of business, and now I'm at a place where I need to leave. That obviously followed a bunch of
By the way, interesting. He just evaporated.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that until now.
As far as figures in Israel go, he's very quiet. Which, especially at the time, that was definitely a very significant story.
Yeah.
Only shortly trumped by Trump.
Yeah.
Also,
The golden age of America begins right now.
I was working the shift when, on the night of the election.
It was a good shift.
It was very busy at the time, but I was able to get home and let it sink in. At the time, you don't feel you kind of disassociate from what's going on because you're too busy doing the news.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely remember that what the vibe in Israel was like. We could also talk about retrospectively how the war developed and such. But that was obviously the top story of the day, is the top story of the month.
Yeah.
That was the spiral of a lot of, even before his inauguration, right? After he won the election, already at the time there was changes in Hamas's movements and it's their yachasut, the way they conducted themselves in negotiations and stuff, because there was definitely an
even before he was even before they were inaugurated, Steve Witkoff joined the Biden staff in the negotiations.
Yeah.
So like
now
which
this
is, by the way, which is like a nice. It's surprising in America, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice that they actually did something.
Something productive and for the use. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that part is But that's another discussion. But it was I remember that he just Witkoff showed up one Friday night and was like, I need to meet with Bibi, and they're like, oh, it's Shabbat. He's like, I don't care. And
right.
And
Yeah. Wow.
Things just started moving immediately. So like now we're going into like the 2024 territory, but this is again like a pinnacle, like a watershed moment for essentially like the whole rest of the year. Like I think nobody would dispute that claim.
What happened in February?
So February,
Oh my
a
God.
bunch of stuff.
Wow, the buses that were bombed. I think it was a Thursday night.
Yeah, that felt surreal. Because I don't know how to explain it, but it's like when you work in the news, like in breaking news, you see like explosive on bus or car or anything vehicle related, you immediately assume it's criminal,
right?
Just because like it just happens all the time. It's like gang violence or criminal or whatever, and it doesn't click in your head. You're like, all right, whatever. So this time it's the bus and not cars. Like cool, run of the mill, and then it just kept coming up, and it was
right. So there was a few of them. Some of them did explode, some didn't. It was a miracle because like it like barely, I think, harmed anyone.
I don't remember if one person was
one was
killed.
Empty, one was whatever.
Yeah.
It was
but I would say that like for your like run of the mill explosive story, I think this also set a lot of things off, because I think this kind of reinstilled or renewed worry that kind of Israelis didn't really have since October 7th, which is like, are we safe in Israel? Because October 7th happened.
Right.
Hamas was like in the country. We're like, oh God, like, is it safe to go out of my house?
And it was
then
terror.
Kind of restored order.
Yeah.
But now it's like,
and it was terror coming from the West Bank. So also So it was like,
So
wait, there's another front.
So it's like, are we? Is this substantially guarded?
Right.
Are we not?
And also, like, for people, my generation and older, it's like it pulls you back to
I'm sure.
the second Intifada or whatever, when buses would just explode.
100%. So I just remember I was like, it's like, how is this happening again? Like, how are we being infiltrated? So that was definitely worrisome.
Well, I think Iran being, every single month in this year, Iran had its effect on us.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. Here it's a terrorist attack. It's hacking people's phones. It's every other. I would feel like every other week the police arrest someone else who's a spy for Iran,
absolutely.
I wouldn't say. I would say they're like mini spies.
Yeah, they agreed to do take some photos, do some graffiti,
collaborate with.
No, but it compiles. No, it's definitely more prevalent than at least in the beginning of the war, for sure.
Yep.
And then I would say the biggest story from February is so obviously Trump was inaugurated in January, and then there was the agreement to the first really substantial ceasefire
and hostage release,
and they started the hostage releases. There was obviously the first one when Romy Gonen and Emily Damari and Don Steinbeck were released, which was like the first one, which is like a very big sigh of relief, because there was like this very long period where we didn't get anyone back, and then we were able to just like watch on TV that it's actually happening. Yeah. So that was like a very surreal shift, and then it kind of became like this, weekly ritual of waiting for the release. Like, will they release them on time? Will they not? Handing off to the Red Cross and the ceremonies.
It's sad how we know exactly what to do. It's like we know who. This time was a bit different, but like the previous rounds, like we knew who's supposed to be released, but you don't really trust Hamas, so you wait until you see them, and then you say it, and then they take him to the or they take him to the base on the way, and the family, and the this and the that, and so it's like it's a routine. It's like a weird routine that we're. It's
like a weird thing to normalize.
Yeah, very weird.
But like that happens a lot here, we find ourselves in a lot of precarious situations.
Listen, when you have hundreds of hostages, so we went through it a lot.
No, but nevertheless, like there was, like not to diminish any other hostage releases, but like this batch of the hostage releases had some very noticeable ones. Yeah, very notable ones. So like, there's obviously the first one. There was the release of Eli Sharabi, Oed Ben Ami, and Or Levi, which was, people were comparing that to photos from the
Holocaust.
Holocaust because they were so skinny. They look
Yeah,
like they were in such bad condition.
that was also I feel like a turning point from
that's
for
when
international pressure of American pressure, like
100%.
certain
Like
things.
it's not even just the pressure of like governments; it's like people themselves.
Yeah.
Like up until this point, Hamas kind of got away with murder. They got away with anything they could, and then they saw
Right.
that, and we saw the
Right, because people were being released, and you see them, and you're like, okay, they're like whatever. And this was the first time that people actually came out, and they were
emaciated. They were like
yeah. It was, and the whole counter campaign started.
right, of course, but like that was definitely a horrific one to watch. That was you couldn't really like no matter how jaded or normalized we are to those things. That was definitely insane. And obviously we have to talk about the release of the bodies of the Bibas family.
Oh my god.
That in and of itself could be.
Ugh.
So I remember that day like it was yesterday. In general, it became like this weekly ritual. Like Hamas would set up their stages,
Right.
and they'd have this ceremony, and now like Al Jazeera would broadcast it, and then like Israel would get the feed from Al Jazeera. We'd talk about it, and like
Let's just, for those who are not in the details, the ceremony means they had these huge stages,
right,
with like graphics in the background with Hebrew and English and whatever. Sometimes it was accurate, sometimes it was a bit misspelled or whatever.
They would have like
but like
soldiers or
no,
like Bibi as a vampire and like.
But also it was very it was psychological terror. So like the messaging there was geared towards Israelis, and it was in order to scare them.
It was also geared towards the Gazans because it was like a victory ceremony.
Yeah,
They brought them up. They made them say a few words.
Right.
And there was crowds gathering to watch them.
And they had the Ninja Turtles, walk with them.
Right. Yeah. Of course. No, and sometimes Hamasnikim would even show up with like IDF gear and weapons confiscated. Like it was a very.
And they gave him a gift bag.
Yeah. They gave him like a certificate of
the details.
Yeah. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
like the level of detail.
Yeah.
So that was the day. That was the weekly routine.
Right.
But
so we knew that we were supposed to be getting a body.
Right. So on that week, I remember watching the stream because I needed to know what's happening.
Watching
and it wasn't even showing. It wasn't even on Israeli news.
Right.
I was watching it on Reuters.
Right, or Al Jazeera.
Or I think Reuters was hosting a.
Cross.
It was one of those two.
Yeah.
But it wasn't unlike every other.
Right. Israeli media
didn't
didn't broadcast it. Right.
Because it was it was just a stage of like these coffins of these murdered. Infants.
Yeah, they were doing terrible.
Crowds cheering it on, and it was.
They actually put the pictures.
Yeah.
Of them on the coffins. It was.
No, I remember it because I remember since October 7th, like that was the day I felt the most like anger and despair since October 7th. I'm sure everybody remembers this, but Kfir and Ariel Bibas were like, they were like.
They were the symbol.
They were this. We didn't know for sure if they were dead or not.
Right.
That's the first thing.
Right.
So, up until that point, it was just waiting in agony and hoping for the best.
Even though
it's hard to imagine how.
No, again, everything's a fog at the moment. But at a certain point in the past 2 years, like early on, we, as well as every other Israeli media outlet, had an article ready.
Of course.
To be published. No. It wasn't like prepping. It was like we were supposed to publish that like they were killed.
Right.
And something happened. I don't know if it was what the decision was made. But people kind of held on to this, even though most people didn't really think that they were alive.
The reality was so angering and frustrating because there's a lot of elements here. But
so Yarden Bibas, the husband and father,
who was separated by Hamas, like in captivity,
right?
Who did not released a few weeks earlier.
Know what was with them,
right? And he received the confirmation in the same way that we all did, which is this ceremony where essentially they're cheering at these dead babies, and it was like, I feel like when October 7th happened, there was like this very big disheartening disconnect from the rest of the world where we saw people cheering on, and there was this isolation of how are people cheering this on?
Yeah.
And then time kind of went on and things kind of normalized, and so for me this like renewed that entire feeling. I was right back there immediately.
Also, Yarden Bibas I think he was in a few videos, but definitely one towards the end of before he was released. And in that video, he just fell apart emotionally, and people were like, felt as if, he actually may harm himself or something like that because, he went through such a big trauma. And by the way, we know from other hostages that they would tell them lies about their loved ones.
Yeah.
Right. For some better, some worse, whatever. But so yeah. And then he comes out, finally out, but his family is not.
Yeah, because I remember during his release, once the release hostages kind of met up with the IDF, you could see that, in most cases, the smiles kind of returning to their faces. They realized they're okay, and he was
like a ghost.
Yeah, it's just that. And then obviously there's the incident where during the autopsies they found out that the coffin of Shiri Bibas was actually just a Gaza woman, and they misidentified the body. So that
killed us.
That was easily the hardest one.
Yeah.
But then, as we said, and again, not to minimize other releases, but after that point, there was a lot of pressure for Hamas to kind of get in line and stop the games. And the ceremonies were noticeably shorter. We got Avera Mengistu back, who was there for a decade. I don't know. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought we would never see him again.
100%.
So that whole February-March period of the releases was, again, those were moments we never.
It was surreal.
It was absolutely.
Right.
And then that takes us into March, which is the age of Zamir, as they say in the government. Eyal Zamir formally replaces Halevi as chief of staff. I could talk. I don't know if this interests me. I could talk about this forever. There's such an interesting dynamic. He came in from day one.
So he comes in and supposedly you would assume that he would actually get along with Prime Minister Netanyahu, but
after he replaced him, immediately reevaluation of all the probes into October 7th and all the other IDF things, top to bottom.
He probed the probes.
He probed the probes. But very straightforward, transparent, showing that he's not afraid for the IDF as an institution to undergo investigations.
Right.
Also, this is really important because it kind of got swept away in the media with the big influx of news. But before that, there were a lot of times where the state comptroller Netanyahu Engelman was saying that IDF officials weren't showing up for the interviews, and they're not complying, and et cetera, et cetera. And he kind of put an end to that on day one. Really, just we're going to be as transparent as possible.
Right.
And then the second element of this is super interesting, and this is relevant even till today, is now that all these officials are resigning for the failures of October 7th, or / he's firing them for the failures of October 7th, they have to be replaced, and him and Defense Minister Israel Katz butt heads almost every single time.
Yeah.
About these promotions, and again, he seems very straight. He seems very full in his decisions, in that these appointments are strictly for tactical anything and have nothing to do with politics.
Right.
I don't care if it's the people who appointed me. I don't care if it's the opposition. I'm doing the military, and it's not the last time.
Even though there's always politics, but yeah.
Oh, 100%.
100%. But trying to disconnect it from politics, national politics.
Absolutely. And this won't, even this week there was I think it was yesterday even, there was a round of promotions that he actually won out, and Katz agreed to.
Right.
And this won't be the last time that we're here, because it's
So Eyal Zamir, it's interesting. His personality is very different than Herzi Halevi. Herzi Halevi was perceived by many to be disconnected, like this elitist, officer, and Eyal Zamir, he comes from Eilat, and Yona and I wrote a huge profile about him, and he's one of the, he's just like another guy, you know what I'm saying, and he's not full of himself, but he's also just very disciplined, as you said, he's very. He actually was in the army system since high school, because he went to there's these
pre-army preparatory
right. So
programs.
it's from 9th grade.
Yeah.
He's been there, that was his dream, and So he went out and went back in. I think, by the way, in general, like having someone come from the outside, sometimes it helps, you know?
Yeah.
Like he knows the system, but he took a break. But like these clashes are just stupid. It's just, you know.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's stupid. On the other hand, I'm glad that's happening because the alternative is that there's no pushback, and then, you know.
Mm-hmm. So like with Herzi Halevi, not that necessarily he wasn't capable. I mean, there are those that would say he isn't, but the fact that they see eye to eye, right? He also like Alzheimer like gave them like the stage to take credit, you know, whatever.
Right.
He wasn't shoving and trying to get his own, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
no. When it comes to Iran, which we'll definitely get to, he that's where it comes into play. Where like at the end of the day, the bottom line is just getting done what needs to get done, and you know.
So now we know though that very soon after he came in, they were just focusing on this.
Right.
They were underground, you know, in Tel Aviv and Kiryat or other places, whatever, planning this attack.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, fascinating.
So if we skip forward a bit to May, I think this was like National Resilience Month.
Okay.
So, you know, Independence Day was May 1st. Obviously, since October 7th, there's kind of been this shroud about how do we celebrate Independence Day when we're still so hurt and we're reeling.
No fireworks. I don't know if you realize.
Fireworks. And also at the time, like, a lot less hostages were home than there are now. So
right.
It's kind of this dilemma and this things about
like you're not
the ceremonies and whose ceremony, whatever.
Yeah.
So there was Independence Day. There was, strictly from like a nationalistic sense of pride, in the middle of May, Yuval Raphael won second place at Eurovision. I remember I was convinced we were gonna get like dead last.
Me too.
Like,
yeah.
Because
so the build up was like
it didn't look
terrible.
Great.
Yeah.
The partial ceasefire agreement that we had that brought some of those hostages home fell apart.
Right.
You know, fighting renewed. A lot of countries already hated us, even from the previous Eurovision, and so like. But it seemed like we were screwed. Like I just thought.
But I think, you know, it's first of all, she is an amazing singer.
100%.
But
absolutely.
But it just shows you how it's really about the story.
Yeah.
And her story.
No, if we get to her story, it's incredible.
Exactly.
She survived the attack.
The Nova.
She was there when it happened.
She was covered.
She had to hide under bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And then.
And she started doing hasbara and stuff, and like.
Yeah, and then.
Like yeah.
No, and I remember in her like interviews, she would talk about how it's funny. Like they'd ask her, like, "Are you scared about all these people at Eurovision who are boycotting?" And it's like, you know, I've been through worse. Like she does.
Yeah.
What are a bunch of like?
Yeah.
So like.
And she was booed on stage.
Yeah, of course. So it's like it's incredible that she's able to go from like such a low to this high and represent.
Right.
But then I also just remember the fact that she made it to the finals, it really put a lot of things into perspective.
Yeah.
Like wow, like. What you see online is not just always the case.
Sometimes it's the extremes, and the extremes are louder.
The extremes are extremely loud, but
and like there's like a silent majority of people who are you know normal.
After the competition, you can see like the distribution of points and the amount of top points she received from all these countries from the public vote. Is these are just people who don't spend all their time on X
and their governments
at the Jews. Yeah,
and their governments are not very friendly.
Oh, so that was kind of like, I think. The refresher that like we all needed after seeing all this global hate, to remind her that like actually like most people here are actually sane and can put things into proportion and like so that just reflected that, and I thought that was like, you know,
she was like the perfect like, you know, package in a sense, because like she could do interviews not only in English, also in French. You know, like she was self-confident, and she's young, and she was charismatic, and she had a really tragic story. So I think it kind of
like a champ.
It put everything that's Israel into one little, you know, one woman.
Yeah, and also it was just like, it's nice to have news that's nice. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, we were like, give us the positive news.
Here's the war. IDF did this, and Hamas did this. So just like, you forget what it's like to hear something in the news that's just nice to know.
Yeah. And then you had Idan Alexander.
Yes, of course. So I don't remember the full specifics, but I remember, again, this is a point where the previous partial ceasefire agreement fell apart. That was another ceasefire agreement which was supposed to continue into another phase, and then it didn't because conditions weren't met, etc. So at this was a time where Trump really exerted pressure on Hamas, Wickoff, they were exerting pressure on Hamas that we need to get back to the table. And, you know, he was essentially, they secured the release as like a sign of goodwill and gesture to continue the talks. And And again,
And then
obviously,
Steve Witkoff actually came.
right,
And
and
he was there at the base.
at the like the
the
absorption.
first point.
Yeah,
Yeah, waiting for.
and he spoke
for
to
him.
Trump literally after meeting up with his mom. Like,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
spoke to his mom, his dad, and then he got
Because he Dan Alexander, American citizen.
from New Jersey.
Yeah. He gave him, and he also gave him his son's. He wore
Wickoff.
this. He had a necklace with a Star of David on it. It was
belonged to his son.
His son who died from an overdose.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave it to Dan Alexander. He said, my son, couldn't have it, but I want this to look after you. And
Yeah, so
It's a special
obviously, like, every hostage returning to Israel is a wonderful, joyous, happy event. But like, I think for us, this was a very special one.
right, for like
There's
the
also a
Jerusalem
watershed.
Post.
Yeah, because he moved from New Jersey.
right.
I think this also really marks the point where I'd say the Trump administration, but like Witkoff specifically, really became this figure that Israel started to
Trust,
understand
the
and
trust.
trust. Exactly, because this is where
Because the previous ceasefire in Iran, whatever, I think if I recall correctly, it was before Trump was actually inaugurated or whatever. So like, so
right, it was like a
the
like, I
release.
remember
The
'cause
release was So like we were expecting him to become president, and they'd just be coming out, and that didn't happen.
No, it did partially, and then it fell apart. But
Right.
but the deal was negotiated. Yeah. So we were kind of waiting for them to keep their end of the bargain, but this showed more than that. He went to Hostages Square.
Yeah.
He didn't just
Right.
show up and
Which
talk.
just shows, by the way, in leadership, like just be transparent.
Yeah.
And just speak to people, and that means everything to those that were
Yeah, and
that were
if you watch what he says, like, it's not even very few buzzwords, and we're working on it, etc. He comes up and he says, this is the most meaningful
right.
mission I've been given. Like,
Yeah.
like the fact that I have the opportunity to do this, and
And this is someone who's never done
exactly he
like diplomacy or public
Right.
stuff.
and
He's just a businessman.
And from that point on, Wickoff was like, for a very large, for a long amount of time, he was very much like the number one guy in Israel.
Yeah.
Like, everyone,
Yeah.
like every time he'd show up, like, people were happy. So I think this started a trend of close, personal, U.S. ambassadors really actually seeing the process through,
Right.
not to like mark a check that I stopped by and saw how things were doing,
Right.
really actively going above and beyond.
Also,
And in those months-
also the previous ambassador, Jack Lew, came here for a very specific reason. He wanted to get the normalization with
Right.
Saudi Arabia. And therefore, and it was also 2 years because it was in the middle of the term.
Right.
So Israelis didn't even know who he was. Like, he was just focused on that. Like, he wasn't doing...
It's very like Ron
Any-
Dermer-esque. It's like,
It's very random. Exactly.
it's like he's doing something, and you're like, yeah,
Right.
sure. But like,
But
what?
he wasn't.
And
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time
yeah,
he was
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Then we get to June. I think
I thought here you're going to say, I have so much to say. You said that about Herzl Levy.
you're right. I think, if I'm honest with myself, I'm still fatigued from June. Like, I don't think I've
Wow.
recovered. Wow.
I never really thought it was going to happen.
No. Yeah. It's like, why now?
BB's been saying this for so many years.
Yeah.
Like,
But I mean, let's break it down. First of all, there was the first night, which was
let's explain how it
so
happened.
disorienting.
It was so basically
Yeah.
it was in the middle of the night.
It was like 3 a.m. There's like, the
and
Homefront
then
Command. Homefront Command has like this app, so whenever there's sirens, it goes to your phone. Even if you don't have the app downloaded, they have a way to let your phone know that
according
like
to location
missiles
or whatever.
coming. And since we've started having altercations with the Houthis who send ballistic missiles, there's now this new update where if a missile's on the way, even before the sirens activate, you get like a pre-warning.
Right.
So now,
But here it was this weird warning.
This was new.
that none of us really understood. By the
Sounded
way,
exactly like the pre-warning. So
a
it was like-
but a lot of also it was different. I don't know, something about we were all sleeping, so whatever. But like, also it was different in the sense that Android phones, if I recall correctly, had a notification saying that there was an earthquake. And I don't know.
Oh yeah. There was also something with that too, because it wasn't a pre-missile.
It was like a weird.
But, like,
yeah.
I remember that the sound went off on my phone, and so I just thought missile because it's the same exact sound that when like a Houthi missile's on the way. So I running to the shelter, and then I like read I was like trying to make sense of this message, and then it turns out that like we've conducted on this operation against Iran, and they just wanted everybody to be awake in case there's a response.
overnight we have a shift, so it's
Right.
like we have 2 people on shift, but it's like a smaller shift, and
It's
sometimes
usually quiet.
or they may be a bit less experienced, and then
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's not equipped for the big happenings.
Right,
Of
and
meetings.
then there was a bunch of us,
Yeah, it
who
was you,
just
me,
like
all the other managers.
Darcy
We just-
and Tal and many other
Yeah, and
people.
we just
We all just like
from 3 till like 1 p.m. the next day.
We
Like,
were
just, I mean, the same
nonstop.
day, just nonstop going.
nonstop.
My now wife had to go to Miluim,
Right.
and I was just like, "What is happening? Like how?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like how is this the reality now?"
Right.
And I was like so tired and confused, and all these things were happening. And then we have to talk about the actual first day, because I think the first day was the most monumental. Because in this short period of a few hours,
Wow, so
we
much.
neutralized their
happened.
entire air defense. It turns out there was a Mossad drone factory just in Tehran that they didn't know about.
Right.
We killed top military officials minute by minute. Like it was the commander, then it was the Navy commander, and then it was the Air Force commander, and then it was all these nuclear scientists, and it just kept happening at such a
But
pace.
also like at the same time.
Yeah, I was like, there's no
The
way.
nuclear scientists. What was it called? Operation. Because there was a bunch of sub operations.
No, God,
Narnia, was it? Narnia.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. It just
I think that was the.
and then the photos started coming out where you'd see an apartment building and just one window had like a
yeah.
like
It was so precise
it was
and
so
exact.
it was such a top notch, just like nothing, like I've never seen an operation like that.
Right. So we attacked from the air, but as you're saying,
No, and
Israel had hundreds, if not thousands, of people on ground
Yeah.
doing a bunch
Also
of other
conducting
stuff.
ops, and there were drones,
Yeah.
and
That we took off from their soil.
from
Yeah.
on the soil, and they
Yeah.
neutralized the air defenses,
Right.
and took out a bunch of missiles.
So at the
missile
beginning,
launchers.
we would be getting information in order to see what was going on from social media, and then the Iranian regime took a really long time to kind of like
Right.
get the hold of it. But then they said you're not like they did not allow
Yeah, there
social
was-
media or whatever.
I think at some point they cut off internet. Like it was very suppressed.
So I thought, yeah, but I think they cut off IP addresses from outside or whatever. So like we couldn't go into their sites for a certain period of time.
Oh, okay.
Their news sites.
Yeah, and then I remember. Yeah, it was just such a fever dream. And then I remember at like 11 in the morning,
But, yeah.
we like finished the strike. Of
But
that
there were
day.
so many elements. Like every few hours, like we got an indication something else happened.
Yeah, no, and then things.
It wasn't
came to
all
light.
at once. Like
No, it wasn't all at once. I just remember the initial barrage. There was just so many significant things, like the amount of top level figures that we killed in such a quick, rapid fashion. And then at like 11 a.m., Effie Defrin, IDF spokesperson, gave the first, initial.
That was the first. You sure?
Yeah, yeah. No, that was the first time.
Right,
someone got on, like, camera and
on
said
live
something.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they did release like
Yeah,
statements
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. They released text
from-
from people putting out, but that's when he
or-
first
yeah.
got to the camera. It's like 11
Yeah.
in the morning. I've been working for like 8 hours at this point.
Right.
Sleep
So I can
deprived.
tell you that like I ran to the safe room with my kids and whatever, and then we had a conversation. So basically, the IDF spokesperson does sometimes like where they'll send you, and also IDF is always like, we have in 5 minutes. There's
Yeah.
a call for all editors in chief or whatever. So like I'm sitting there and like trying to also like just see what's going on with my family, but also like listen to what's going on. And he's like, okay, this is happening. This is whatever, and we're like,
No, it was too much.
yeah.
But I remember watching it in like such a calm manner. So like he said everything that Israel did, like they spoke
Yeah.
this, they did this, and then just like in the most nonchalant manner, he was also like, Iran sent over 100 drones. They're on the way now. They'll be here in like 4 hours. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I was like, I checked my phone and like no one else pushed it yet. And I was like, did I hear that right? I felt like I was hallucinating.
Right.
And then they did, and like we managed to intercept all of them. But like that was.
And then, by the way, all these WhatsApp and Telegram groups like established or became more popular, where like they would be telling you, okay, there's movement in Iran of a missile.
Yeah.
Like if you live in so and so, you should be prepared because in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, it
No,
was.
It was surreal. I almost feel like the other 11 days of the conflict were separate from the first day.
Yeah,
The first day was such a
it was euphoria.
monumental,
Yeah.
like,
And then-
insane.
and
And
one-
then obviously the close second is of course when the U.S. joined the strikes in Operation Midnight Hammer,
Right.
where the B-52s like
Wow, those 12 days were very long though, because like we had a lot of buildings here.
like, listen, forget like the amount
Yeah.
that I worked over
Hit.
those 12 days, just the amount of times where you'd have to run to a shelter.
Yeah,
And then as soon as you get back home, There's another time I have to go back.
Yeah.
Especially on the last day, like right before the ceasefire went into effect.
Yeah,
They,
yeah,
like
yeah.
did this, keta where
They always
did
do
like
that.
5 or so.
All the bad guys do that all the time.
It was like it. I think like if you live outside of Israel, you see the Iron Dome, you're like, oh, it's fine, it's not a big deal. They're used to it. And I have to say, like in most cases, whenever there's a missile, we are kind of used to it. But that was
but the Iranian missiles were stronger, more powerful. By the way, there's so many elements here, right? Like suddenly, like we get a notification or whatever that the American and British and French armies or whatever, like air forces helped, like shoot them down,
yeah.
And you're like, okay, wait, we actually have some support. You know what I'm saying?
I also remember like the earlier barrage. It was like Jordan helped out, and you're like, what?
Right, or allowed and abled, and then they whatever stuff like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely obviously at the beginning of the first day. I was like, wow, this is so fun. Like they're really doing this.
It felt like it,
and it got not so fun very fast.
Yeah, it was very messy.
It was a very long 12 days.
Yeah.
I'm obviously very glad
kids didn't have school.
Kids didn't have school. I didn't have sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad of the progress that Israel was able to make, but I'm also glad that it came to an end because it was rough. It was
very rough.
Yeah.
And since then, by the way, now like there are talks about a potential strike, and I heard this analysis of like, are we actually prepared to be in this state of like the 12-day war every half a year? Because we can't do that. Like it's
It's interesting because it parallels this whole question of like the past 2 years of war. It's like, can Israel withstand going back to Miluim? Can Israel withstand another round of fighting if the ceasefire breaks loose? And I don't know. Maybe it just felt more essential, personalized because it was affecting me so much more. But the Iran war it was just so intense. It wasn't just me. Like everyone around me, like everyone was just dead. Like,
everyone was.
So that's an every half a year thing. Like I don't see how that's sustainable.
Right.
But I don't know, like the whole question of renewed fighting in Iran is it's so it could really go either way. Like I see the arguments for why it will or why.
By the way, I feel like we have so many tricks up our sleeve.
I'm sure we do. Listen, like
it's not only aerial.
If you think about like the Hezbollah beeper operation.
Yeah.
The Mossad was like, yeah, that was one thing. We have 17 other. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure there is.
By the way, since the 12-day war, there's this X account. Yeah. Remember that? We would obsessively go in and check. We actually verified it is from the Mossad. But it's a bit of, but it was also like, it was sometimes serious, sometimes not, but they didn't want you to know when they were serious and when they weren't.
Right. No, it's very interesting because obviously if one talks about Iran,
so smart.
They also have to talk about the vitality of the regime and if it's going to last,
right.
Which is, our news editor Alex Winston is convinced that this is the year that, the regime's going to go.
Yeah.
And every time it looks like they somehow hold on, but
he's going to be part of the revolution. I feel like.
Yeah.
Alex is.
I'm sure he'll be the ambassador to Iran. 2 months after but it definitely exposed the regime as like the weak, desperate entity that it is. Because again, before this war broke out,
but it also showed their ability with missiles. Which is
absolutely,
in a sense, maybe more lethal than everything talking about nuclear abilities, but like actually with missiles,
right? No,
they were able to do major.
We talk about Iran nuclear, and the fact is that it was the missiles that did the damage.
Right.
It was the missiles that hit Soroka. It was the missiles that destroyed.
By the way, same thing. October 7th. It's like old school, just fighting. Interestingly, politically. Benjamin Netanyahu became legitimate again for many people.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a turning point because up until then, I can tell you a lot of people who used to vote for him who said we're going to vote for Lieberman now or for other people.
Right.
And they changed their mind after this.
Yeah.
So you saw it in the polls that suddenly he was getting back to his strength, which is like
no, it's interesting because when I spoke to Danny Luz, he said that
Knesset member Likud
Knesset member Danny Luz. He said that Likud's brand definitely took a huge hit on October 7th.
Yeah,
but he believes that since not just this, but also like the war in general,
right.
Has been repairing it. But that's definitely, I'd say that's like the pivotal. I think that's when like any semblance of trust in Netanyahu was restored, because before that I think everybody was.
It's
just...
definitely going into those election
Yeah.
ads.
So if we're talking about are we going to strike Iran again, one has to wonder, is he going to do it again for political? Because if you ask me, if I was Bibi, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
If it's on the table, why not? I don't know, but
Yeah.
obviously time will tell. But
Right.
I do remember though at the time I was a bit irked because at the time of the strike, him and his whole like all the security officials, they took off on like their Air Force One and just left because they expected that the response, like the IAEA, the Air Force outperformed their estimate
Yeah.
for how it was gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So they took off because they thought that like the whole country was just gonna be obliterated.
Yeah.
Just like it's nice that it wasn't, but also like,
Yeah.
like I wish you warned us a bit more. I wish the siren went off at 2 and not 3, if that's the case. Like,
Yeah.
if that's your estimate, but no, but that was definitely. I don't know if it's just personally how I felt, but like I think that was like the most pivotal
Yeah.
thing of the year. It was warfare.
It's
on a whole
gonna
other
be
level.
it's gonna be taught in in militaries and military academies for decades, if not
100%.
more. Also, it was so well organized and so
Yeah.
surprising because like
Like
we're
every
not
little
an
detail.
organized, like we're not Germany, like
No,
we're-
if you've been in the army here,
yeah,
you
you're like
wonder how we win wars. Like,
Yeah.
how does anything get done?
no, but it was like everything was planned to the smallest detail. Even like the statement of the IDS, like the first thing they initially like released was all like prepared ahead. They even had graphics and stuff, like everything
like,
that they
knew
sent
who they were gonna
out.
take out,
They knew
everything, yeah.
they had it all. Like they had it all. It was, and that's where Effie was hiding for
Yeah.
a while. Yeah.
Fair play.
Go Effie.
So if we fast forward a bit, I'd say that we had a little period of relative quiet as far as that goes in wars, and then September was a very explosive one.
Yeah.
So the first explosive story in September was obviously when we struck Qatar. So let's talk about it, because
I think it was just one missile.
it was just but it was
and it was supposed to be a very precise
Yeah.
hit on Hamas members in Doha.
right. So let's remember a few things. So first of all, that same day, just hours before the strike,
Mm-hmm.
Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar confirmed that Israel agrees to a current ceasefire. There was like a U.S. backed proposal, or one of the
Right.
many. So Israel said we agree to the ceasefire, and then like
Right.
4 hours later, Israel strikes this building that contains Hamas leadership in Qatar.
Right.
So
Turns out to not necessarily be
yeah, it was
Hamas leadership in Qatar.
Yeah,
But
I think it killed like Hamas, like one of their like guards or personnel or something, and then
yeah, but like
and a
not
few Qatari soldiers, but none of the head
or
honchos were
people. Yeah, it
from.
wasn't. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that one could look at this.
Yeah.
I'm very pissed about it. I think it was a huge mistake. A lot of people spin it as this scared them, and because this scared them, that's why they later agreed to the deal, and that's how we got where they are today. And one can make that argument, but I don't know. They were hiding their phones in different rooms. They were hiding in secret.
Yeah.
I think they were well aware that they weren't immune.
Right. There
I
were
think they
questions.
always-
Did Israel tell the U.S. before?
Right.
And then did
'Cause
they
when
whatever?
The spin, like the pivot was, even if it didn't kill them, it was just to send a message that like you're no longer safe.
Right.
We weren't going after you. You need to agree to this deal now.
Right.
But I don't think they believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So when the strike happened, a few hours after Israel showed willingness to agree to a deal, and then not only did it happen, essentially showing that we're not really interested in a ceasefire unless like whatever, but
Right.
we also missed. I thought it seemed like a botched job. I don't know where the disconnected
Right.
information
That was my initial thought. I'll give you the counter.
Go ahead.
The counter to that. Very senior American officials who I spoke to about this topic said they weren't happy about it,
Right.
but in a way it may have
Right.
enabled
No, so that's the way I view
the,
it.
the end of the war.
I think that Israel and the U.S. like made the best
Because we were
out of a
really
bad situation.
criticized here, like,
Right?
big
No,
time.
I think Israel managed to get out of it in the best case scenario, which is like the deal that, if you look at it, was even better than like the deal that Israel was asking for at the time.
Yeah.
Because Israel was working on a proposal or agreed to a proposal where it had to like draw back further from Gaza and the phases would take
It
longer.
wasn't ending the war.
Right. So this got a better deal.
Yeah.
But from the reports I've seen, and I'm sure the officials you spoke to would have agreed with this, is that the mediators use this opportunity to pressure both Israel and
Yeah.
Hamas. That like,
But by the way, that may not be a bad thing, whether
No,
whether that Israel's intention or not.
I'm like, am I happy with the end result? Yeah. I still, anytime something like this happens where it seems that an operation was done and there was a mismatch in the intelligence,
Right.
I think the fact that the end result was the best possible outcome doesn't always justify the fact that
Right.
it was a dumb risk.
Right. So Netanyahu lost a lot of points here,
Yeah. I think,
even internally.
yeah, like it was,
100%.
I don't know. Because there's also reports that like they were potentially thinking about doing something like on the ground in Qatar, like something more accurate. Or
And the head of the Mossad and the Shin Bet were against, and this whatever. There was a whole.
So this whole that's
it was very unclear.
That's where my criticism
Lots
lies,
of
that
questions.
If you're gonna
like,
risk,
I'm sure in like a decade or so we'll like
then we'll have a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But just this notion of like risking a hostage deal not with the backing of your intelligence for
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, but
People felt that it wasn't the right moment or the right
the best way to
direction.
do it.
Yeah.
But that being said, like things did escalate very fast from there towards
Yeah.
reaching a deal.
Mhm.
So
Who cares?
Yeah.
But right before that,
but also
big-
again, this is less of a actually no, it is an Israel thing too.
it's so
it's a
so,
Jewish thing, but it's also an Israel thing.
it's so related,
Yeah. There was the the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
right?
I
I have to say that I think I remember talking to you about this. Whatever, like I kind of knew who he was, but like I wasn't following
I knew
him.
he was not because I followed.
I
him.
wasn't
saw his clips.
listening. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't
Yeah.
as aware as I maybe should have been about him.
I think it's interesting because I really think that
Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know.
I think the influence is more clear in his absence.
Yeah.
As in, if you watch, like his clips and stuff that his organization did,
Prior.
to the assassination, and you kind of watch this is actually relevant to I think it was today's editorial about anti-Semitism in the
On the right.
on the right, where Charlie Kirk, love him, hate him, criticize him, agree with him, don't agree with him, doesn't matter. One thing that was like consistent is when it came to Israel and when it came to the Jews, at the very least, at a very baseline, his view wasn't based off of conspiracy and falsehood. As in, people
Right.
would come up and they would say, "Oh, I read the Talmud; it says this, and they're actually evil." And
Yeah.
and he would just debunk it. Like there was no room for it.
Right.
And it wasn't just there was no room for it, but like it was methodically described that this is why this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's maybe something that's easy to take for granted when you see it, because in your head it's also like, of course this is ridiculous. So like, why wouldn't somebody?
No, but he was able
debunk
to.
this?
He was able to give
No,
a-
very
a
meticulous
smart.
and straightforward.
Yeah.
But more importantly, now that is kind of lacking. As in, there's still Ben Shapiro, but I think
It's very different. Because
it's very different. I think
he's
a lot
not
of people
Jewish, he's
exactly
evangelical.
exactly.
Whatever.
So I think the absence. I think like
I think it caused this alt right or woke right to become stronger. Some of them base it as if it's on Charlie Kirk, even though he wasn't really like that.
Right.
And sometimes with people like this, it's like everyone tries to pull the deceased in their own direction,
Right.
or to fit their own narrative, right?
we didn't even get to like the whole conspiracies about how Israel's behind it because he was turning on.
Yeah,
Israel. Like, it's
yeah.
not-
Like
Yeah, but-
every other day, Candace Owens
Yeah.
rant.
and we could do a whole episode on her and the things she said.
We should.
We should. But
It'd be
what I'm
fun.
saying is the like now that there isn't like that figure anymore for someone who can like debunk I would say like borderline blood libel, like just for the sake of because it's wrong and not for any other interest, just because it's a very obvious
Right.
falsehood.
That said,
I think that's
many of the things, the positive things he said about Israel and about the Jews, were amplified.
right.
Right. So other things, also and not necessarily positive for us or whatever, but so yeah, so you can look at it different ways. But like supposedly he was writing a book about Shabbat, if I remember correctly, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I remember he wrote that letter to Netanyahu about how to work on Israel's messaging.
Like how
I know this is a topic you're very passionate about because Israel's messaging is
lacking.
That's a very tame way to describe it.
Inexistent.
But yeah, so what I'm saying is, when you think about like why did our paper cover it so much? Like why do we care so much? Why does it matter?
But
it's not
but notice that since then we're very focused on this segment of the conservative party movement, whatever.
Yeah, like it's something like the absence of that is really it's astonishing. I think it's an interesting discourse because a lot of it seemed like I don't know how to put this without pissing off our readers. Okay. It's a very interesting discussion because a lot of people say that like anti-Semitism is usually on the left and this is kind of like a new thing that's emerging. I think this is a newer branch, but of something that was kind of always there. I think a lot of times people forget that like neo-Nazis.
Well, also Nazis.
Are on the right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're a majority. I don't.
No, 100%.
I'm not saying it taken out of context. Of
No, but
I think it's easy to write them off as lunatics and pretend that
the anti-Semitism on the left is actually a semi-new phenomenon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like because it actually was. If you were a liberal, you were supporting immigration. We were immigrants. Jews were immigrants, right? But now the Jews are not immigrants,
right?
And they're
No, so it's brought about this interesting discourse where a lot of American Jews feel that a lot of anti-Semitism is prevalent on the left because, and again, we're obviously in either case like here we are talking about extremes, but all these calls of globalizing the Intifada and this it's like you think this is like the most egregious display of anti-Semitism that that one can do. So I think we tend to forget that like you spend 10 minutes on X and you'll see that neo-Nazis still exist. They're still very much
No, they were around all the time.
Yeah, like it's
but it's become normalized.
Right. And so it's apparent now that Charlie Kirk was very like a stopgap.
Right, because he would call out Tucker Carlson, or he would call out Candace Owens for saying something.
That, he would,
and he was, even though he was younger than them or whatever, but like he was this figure.
Yeah, no, so definitely one of the more, I'd say like out of left field stories of the year that had such a huge impact, in a very unexpected way. So if we move into October, again not so long ago,
October rain.
Wow.
Welcome to the JPost headlines. Today is October 12th, 2025, and this is a special edition of our podcast. Today we bring you one headline and one story. After 2 harrowing years in Hamas captivity, Israel prepares to welcome home its hostages. It has been 736 days since families across Israel saw their loved ones taken during the horrors of the October 7th, 2023 massacre. Now, for the first time in 2 years, the possibility of reunification is real. For 2 years, parents, siblings, children, and friends have lived in suspended time. Tonight, they prepare for a dawn that may finally bring their loved ones back. From all of us at the Jerusalem Post, we send strength, compassion, and reverence to the families whose long night may soon give way to light. We also have in our hearts all those we lost from this terrible tragedy.
That was.
So you were saying about Iran. You were saying about Iran. For me, one of the most. It was. I don't know if it was difficult. I don't even know how to describe it. So you had President Trump come to Israel, first time since he was reelected. The same day he comes, he speaks to the Knesset. The same day, 20 hostages were released.
Yeah.
Living hostages.
And no ceremony, very rapidly. It just
weird, actually, phone calls to the families.
They were FaceTiming the families. Look, they're on the way. Yeah.
Yeah, weirdest.
It didn't feel real. I was like, there's no way it's going by this smoothly.
I remember coming to the office at like 5 o'clock in the morning and waking someone up, and it was just, we had our interns here who were great, and we needed them to pitch in because whatever. But like, they're like, did all this happen today?
Yeah, like it.
You know what I'm saying? So like, and also and then suddenly they announced there's a summit in Egypt, in Cairo, and we're just like, and this is the eve of Simchat Torah, which is 2 years on the Hebrew calendar for October 7th.
Right.
It was just like our whole like insides were just like turned. It was
like too much to process even.
Right, and it's actually interesting because Trump they always said Trump wants his inauguration to be a split screen where you have the inauguration and hostages being released. So it didn't happen then,
right?
But it did happen this day.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know. It was just crazy.
I remember we were planning. We're like, how are we gonna cover both? Like, who's gonna do this and who's gonna graphic? Like, it was unreal.
Right, because and I had to. This is like super important that very early on into the war, we had a briefing with a senior American official who said, we're not going to be able to get all the hostages back. There's going to be a bunch of like quote unquote ronarods.
Yeah, and also I think everyone would agree with that sentiment, like at the time, because
suddenly
before that,
boom. In one day, we're used to like the sprinkling.
No, but also before October 7th, like we're used to the idea of a hostage being there for
Unfortunately,
years.
yeah.
Gilad Shalit,
right?
Avera Mengistu, Hisham Zayed. It's a Hadar Golden and Orange Show. Like it's not out of the ordinary to have a handful there for a decade or more.
Right, Oron Shaul sometime in the past year was released in an operation. Hadar Golden just recently. So like. And you're like
even when this ceasefire deal was announced, we still had in the back of our minds like,
right,
they're not gonna.
We were not. Yeah, we were.
Listen, obviously it's important for us to note that we're not brushing this under the rug. There still is one hostage left in Gaza.
100%.
Not for a minute.
No, but it's only one hostage. Like
right.
There was this scenario was almost
inconceivable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
and it just
And Trump shared our front page.
Yeah.
There it is.
Now the camera sees it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
I'm going to show it.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to show it to the camera.
We were able to say, like, there are no living hostages left in Gaza. And it was just, yeah. I didn't even have the bandwidth to, like, react emotionally because it was just...
We didn't have time.
No, yeah.
We didn't have time.
Insane.
Right, and it was closing circle because this is 2 years after.
No,
it's
really interesting. Like the semblance of like Jewish holidays throughout the war is just absolutely. Well, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but once we get to the shooting in Bondi, obviously like that coincides with Hanukkah a lot. But so fast forwarding not too much, but a bit. There was the incident with the former military attorney general, where it turns out that she instructed or is heavily implicated in the leak of the footage, which was a very loud day in Israel.
Right.
It's a very problematic
footage, basically implying that Israeli soldiers were sexually attacking,
like a Hamas terrorist.
Yeah,
at the State Haman facility.
Right.
Yeah.
Turning out to not necessarily be, being violent or whatever, not being a sexual abuse, many other problematic issues there, which the highlight is hiding her phone.
Yeah.
She, which became, it became a whole genre of its own. Every single
no, because she went missing.
She kind of allegedly staged a suicide attempt.
Yeah, they found her car running
next to the beach.
Yeah.
Anyways, but ever since, every other TV station did these experiments with an iPhone. She had an iPhone, has an iPhone, and they would put it in water or in the sea and see like if it because someone found it,
Right, yeah,
and it was
the
a few
beach
days
is later.
later, and like her picture's there in the background, and a lot of people were skeptical, but it was her phone.
Yeah. I mean, like wow, like it was first obviously like politically it was a huge day.
Right.
Um,
And we're not going to get into this, but it really kind of is one of many incidents where Israel is kind of split into criticism or support or whatever of the judicial system
Yeah, I mean,
and law enforcement.
I think it's a very hard thing to kind of rationalize anyway. As in, like, for me, what's confusing is, on one hand, I think what she did was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's good that they removed her ranks, that they fired her, all that stuff. Like, Magia, like, she deserves it. Like, what she did was absolutely against protocol, bad, illegal, everything. Like, and she deserves everything that's happened to her. At the same time, what I don't feel good about is, first of all, like
The negative campaign.
the negative campaign to the point where she's actually attempted. There was like the staged suicide attempt, and then
Then
there was
later
incident
there was a
where she took a bunch of medication. Where like that,
yeah.
it doesn't feel good. It's
Right.
This is like, and then when you look at the incident itself, it's hard because again, what she did is very bad and harmful and illegal and all that stuff. At the same time, I'm still very conflicted about the investigation itself. As in, did the guards do what they're accused of? Because that's also not great.
Right.
So there's just a lot to balance all in one story, and
100%.
it's very confusing.
We're not. This
no,
this is a whole
that's a whole
episode.
other episode. Yeah.
It's a whole episode.
We'll bring in Yona and we'll just
Yeah.
But
I actually wanted to. I told Shifra I wanted to have a debate on this issue. And
on which part?
On the whole, former IDF attorney
Like,
general.
should she have leaked it or like?
No, obviously
No,
not.
so what's
but like about the way it was treated, etc.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, managed.
Yeah. Anyway, no,
Speaking of Shifra, we're out of time
Yeah.
almost. So
moving on.
to our other demon.
Yes. In November, I'd say leading up to November, there was just so much coverage.
Yeah,
around
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But who could forget the New York mayoral election? I mean, there was a bunch of elections at the same time, but
No, that's what we
That's
cared
what-
about.
yeah. Mamdani.
Right.
Mamdani. Won the election.
I could say here now.
So how do you feel about it?
So I don't know if you remember. It was probably the beginning of the month, or maybe like a bit before that. I said like I want at least one or two stories about Mamdani a day.
Yeah.
And some people thought I was exaggerating.
Yeah.
Alex
And then it
Winston
ended up
being one of them.
not an issue.
But our readers just wanted to read it. I actually remember someone reached out to me through a friend of mine who's a Satmar chassid in New York, who wrote an op-ed actually supporting Mamdani.
Right, I remember that.
And like I actually I requested that op-ed because 99% of our content was actually negative.
Right.
And I remember a day or two later, I see Matilda Heller, our international affairs correspondent, and she says everyone's saying we're like left wing and we're like anti whatever. And I was like, why? I was like, why? I was like, why this time?
Yeah.
And she says because of Mamdani and whatever. I was like, what's
You
the
can't
big
have nuanced
deal?
takes in the
Come
news.
on.
You know this.
I was
You have
like,
to pick a side and you have to stick with it.
exactly.
Anyway,
that wouldn't be fun.
no. That's what
Um,
people expect.
Yeah.
No. Listen, I mean, I don't think there's anything to add about Mamdani that hasn't been expressed a million times on our website, but
Globalized
I think
intifada.
this is one of those. We'll see it as it plays out. I will say it's an interesting dichotomy here because I think he personally seems to be getting his act together now that the campaign's kind of over.
Yeah.
But no,
okay.
Yachasit to like when things started off.
Okay.
But no, you don't have to agree with me. I'm saying
Because he was clueless.
right, but when the bar for
At the end of the day, when you come into office, like you have to.
So I say so I think he's at least kind of getting more informed, getting his act together. But it kind of looks like his sviva, like the people around him, and who like there's reports of people who's chosen to be in his cabinet and such who have all these anti-Jewish, anti-Israel sentiments,
Right.
that's starting to come out more. So it's like, while this appears to be getting more rational on this other aspect, it's not. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure this is not the last time we'll talk about Mamdani.
I think it's a turning point for American Jewry. I think
Absolutely. Listen, New York is a very prevalent Jewish hub in America.
right. And it's also an indication to a certain direction the Democratic Party is going to.
Yeah.
Obviously, not the entire party, but it's very frightening for many Jews.
Yeah.
And like you have to understand, this is not a guy who just like went to an occasional demonstration. He
No,
says
Facebook posts back when.
no, but he says I became a public servant, I don't know, whatever. But like he went into to politics because of the Palestinian cause,
Right.
of the BDS movement. Like that was what, like brought him into this
Right.
public sphere. So like, it's not Kamala Harris who was okay, but like her advisors were very anti-Israel.
It's like, I kind of view it as like how, Biden, I love him, hate him, criticize him, whatever. Some of the actions he took, in terms of like right after October 7th, like when he showed up.
I
It's
will
not
listen
because
to
of-
that speech at any day, and like
His
I'll
don't, like,
have
yeah. And it's not because of advisors.
goosebumps.
It's
No.
because he is
He's
Zionist.
he's a Zionist.
That's-
Yeah.
So like, when we
You can't say that about almost any other.
right
politician,
So, exactly.
yeah.
So when we talk about the core politician and not his cabinet or
Right.
and again, this will develop.
And the core is globalizing.
right.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh
good
it
luck,
against that.
New York Jews.
Yeah, we'll be covering.
We're here. There's a story we're looking into about two buildings.
Right. Two
Of-
entire apartment complexes of Americans.
American Jews who want to move
Yeah.
to Israel together. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
so I'm sure when we do the 2026 recap, Mamdani will be all over it, for sure. And then obviously, it's almost unfortunate that this is so close to the end of our year, but the biggest, most recent story we have to obviously talk about is the Bondi shooting.
Mhm.
We had a whole podcast episode about this.
Mhm.
We don't have to dwell on it for too long, but we're still reeling from it. There's a lot of questions. A lot of Australia's Jews really feel uncertain about what to do. A good friend,
Right.
contributor Arsen Ostrovsky was wounded.
Yeah.
It hit very close to home.
And sometimes we forget when we like, okay, so there's a terrorist attack, but like Australia hasn't seen this type of attack, so it's not just like it's not only a Jewish thing; it's also an Australian
very
or
much-
Western, international incident that is it's kind of like the war here kind of ended, and now diaspora Jews are suffering from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
It was very well organized. Like it wasn't just sometimes you have a lone wolf or whatever. This is something very.
I like every day I check for follow-ups to see.
Yeah.
The internal probe is going to come in because.
Mhm.
I spoke to experts about this, and again, like whenever these things kind of happen, it's very rare that something that this organized and this well thought out and meticulous plan and all these things it just comes out of thin air, and
Right.
usually you see that if organizations were to pick up the pieces or communicate or whatever. So I'm very curious to see what that draws, but I think what resonates the most to me, like what really sticks out, is there's like an unfortunate reality that we can't necessarily control, which is that Israel can't fully be control of Jewish security around the world. We
No.
have to, other countries have
Even
to step up.
though there are certain behind the scenes.
No, absolutely, and there's collaboration, and
yeah.
also like
right, but we can't take responsibility.
Yachasit, like Australia has very good counterterrorism, like
Mhm.
considered to be counterterrorism forces, but
Right.
it's
It was interesting because like there's so much news and also so much anti-Semitism now. But like a friend of mine who lived in Sydney up until recently says, we're talking about one of the heads of the Jewish community there. He's like, his house was torched in January and like his car.
Yeah.
He had to move.
We
like,
talk about
and like
incidents,
where have you guys been? You know what I'm saying? And like, did we probably reported something about, or I don't know.
That's the whole thing. There's like, oh, I remember that, and then I realized I'm actually not sure which incident because there's so many.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe a semi-positive note is there's this a conference this week in Jerusalem of Jewish leaders of Jewish communities from around the world, foreign ministry, and I met with them. But a day later, Gideon Sa'ar, the foreign minister, spoke with them. And he said to them that Jews should be making aliyah, like you guys should be making aliyah. Now, me being the former Jewish World correspondent, like was like texting a bunch of people who were there. I was like, so what was the reaction? Are you guys like mad at him or whatever? And they're like, no, actually, like we gave him ideas of like how this can be further or whatever, or what we need in order to make aliyah or. And
it's like reminiscent of France a few years ago, like
and there was, even though back then Netanyahu said make aliyah and it wasn't very well received, but here I was assuming it would be not well received, but I think after October 7th something changed there, and they didn't resist it, like they actually welcomed it with open arms, and that was very surprising to me. It's going to take a while. In general, Western societies, people don't pick up their bags and leave unless it's a Russia-Ukraine war, and you could debate if that's a Western society.
It's not a common situation.
But as you mentioned, France, it took a few years after the Toulouse attack in 2012, and I think here the same thing. So there's many Jews from the diaspora buying. I know it's for people like you who are like just got married and whatever, they're buying apartments.
Right.
So in a way, it's gonna make things more expensive. Even though apartment, here's the good news: apartment prices are going down for the first time in decades.
Yeah.
And as of yesterday, you can order things online.
Right.
From overseas.
It only took.
And there's no tax up until $150 instead of $75.
For our foreign listeners, don't understand the significance of that, but
we're all very addicted to Chinese.
Shopping in person in Israel is a battle in and of itself. So this is definitely good news. But definitely relating back to the situation in Australia, I think to end on a positive note or to find some semblance of comfort. Similar to Eurovision, is that in this time where it seems like Jews are pariahs and hated and nobody cares about them. He's like an internet celebrity now, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who bravely he didn't have to.
He also got death threats. So
of course he got death threats, but the point is that at the most crucial moment when it really matters, we're not entirely abandoned, and I think. I'm not going to reiterate the episode.
We're not entirely abandoned, but it's bad.
No, it's obviously bad. No one would argue that it's good. But I think it's sometimes, especially if you watch the news, it's easy to think that you're abandoned entirely. So.
Arson actually wrote, I think, on X, he said, we need less talk and more just actions. Mm-hmm. Don't say we support you.
Right.
Support us.
Actually support us.
Yeah. And President Herzog is going to visit there sometime in the next month. So he was invited by the Prime Minister, who was very not popular amongst Jews.
Yeah.
And I think it's a smart move to have someone like him, like President Herzog, who's I would say semi-consensual figure, to go and show support.
Yeah. We'll be back later and talk about our predictions for the upcoming year.
Right. And you got married in the past year.
I did, but compared to that was a big story for me, but
for the Jerusalem Post.
Yeah, no, that was the biggest story of October actually.
Jerusalem Post celebrated 93 years. And we're going on to our 94th year.
94th. So, yeah, obviously, we also skipped over some stuff because we surely don't have time for the vast volume of news that happened this year.
Right.
And
we did not bring a l'chaim for us to drink.
No. because we're still working. That would
We're
be
still working.
irresponsible.
That is true.
So
home.
I guess I would just say that thanks for this wrap up, and hopefully next year we have the same amount of news but positive.
Amen.
Amen.
Happy New Year.
All right, Happy New Year. That's it for this week's episode. Here at the Jerusalem Post, it's been our privilege to cover the news for you over the past year, and we'll see you all in 2026.